Alright, I'm going to do a quick tutorial of Sawtooth Software's SSI Web program. This is version 8.3.10. And this video is an update from the previous one that I posted a few years ago on an earlier version of Sawtooth. So the newer version has a lot of new features. It's now integrated the web hosting into the SSI Web, as well as a quick analysis tools like just running a Logit model. So real quick, if you look at this title screen, you'll see all the different sections that I'm going to be covering and the time stamp in the video. So if you just want to jump to something, start with this table of contents here and you can jump to a section. Alright, so getting started. The first section is going to be basic survey questions and how to set up a survey. So let's hit the new project. I'm going to call this demo. I'm going to put it on my desktop for now. Okay, there we go. You'll see this little tree structure. I don't really use it. This pencil here, this is where you want to start with writing your questionnaire. So everything you see here is going to be questions followed by page breaks. The very first question is by default, it's the starting question. Usually, if you double click that, you can edit it. Usually you want to start with just like a welcome message. So hey, welcome to my survey. Of course, you're going to do a really great job of making this look pretty and great. You can also add passwords here if you want to make it a password entry only, but for now we're just going to leave it like that. So let's add a question. This add button here, you can add loads of different questions. Over here is your choice questions. We're going to get to those later in the tutorial. For now I'm just going to focus on these. You really have to play with these to figure out what they all do. There's a number of different options, but let's start with a selection. This is basically your multiple choice question. In this tutorial, I'm going to be demoing choices for passenger cars. So let's say the first thing I want to do is find out if you're interested in a car or an SUV. So I'm going to call this question vehicle type. Here it comes up. You have your different headers, the question, the footer. Each one of these sections, you can type in HTML code into this, and because what's typed in here is going to be displayed on a web browser. You don't have to though, you can just write text and it'll render it for you. So I'm going to put my first question, are you shopping for a car or SUV? Okay, now response options here, I'm going to make two. One is a car and one is an SUV. Here you go. You'll see that this is going to make a new list called vehicle type list. The question is called vehicle type, so it automatically makes a list. If I preview it, looks like this. Great. Are you shopping for a car and SUV? Okay, so there's my question. I'm going to add a page break for the next page. And let's say that for now that's the only thing I want to know and I'm done with my survey. So I'm going to add a terminate link. This is the end of survey link. So I'm going to call it end of survey. And this page just says, thanks for taking our survey. Alright, now I have a full survey from beginning to end. You can preview it. You can hit this test button here. You can preview it in a lot of different ways, but let's just say test the survey. And this is what you would see right now if you were to post this thing on the web. Here it is on my actual web browser. So it's running it on my machine, but so I can preview it. So here you go. It says, welcome to my survey. Next, are you shopping for a car and SUV? Let's say I'm shopping for a car, and then now it's done. Thanks for taking our survey. Wow, that was a great survey. That's your basic getting started. Formatting. Okay, this is an incredibly important part of any survey you're going to make. You really need to format it and make it look pretty. No one likes taking a survey. Surveys are horrible. Well, okay, that's not true. But make it look pretty. It's worthwhile. Get this little survey setting button and you can change everything. One of the first things you can do is just change the theme. There's lots of really nice predefined themes that do a lot of formatting for you. Let's just pick this one. Make sure you hit Use Selected. You see how that changed to autumn now? Okay, now I'm going to use that. If I preview it, it looks like this. There's my format. Awesome. So you can do a lot of changes right there in the front. The browser title is just what shows up in your web browser on the top corner. I might call this Vehicle Survey or something like that. The page format. This is sort of your global settings. Remember in this this question here, you'll see the header 1, 2, and a question and a footer. Here, if you go back to these settings, the page format are the global settings. So you can change it so that you have, let's say I want my header to be really big, and I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to put it in the center. That's 18 font, and my header 2 is going to be a little bit smaller. I'm going to make it bold, and then my question I'm going to make it less justified, and I'll make it a little bit smaller, like 14, and that's it. Okay, so those are basic settings, and those will be fixed throughout the question. Now, of course, in each question, you can override those global settings by changing them right here. So for this specific one, if I want this to be different than the global settings, I can change them here. I can also make certain smaller changes locally by using HTML. So what if I want SUV to be bold? I can add, a B, and you'll see that it automatically fills that in for me. It knows what HTML it recognizes the HTML coding right away, and Sawtooth does some of that autofill for you. So now just SUV is going to be bold. Yeah, I see. So you can override things by typing in HTML code or changing them locally within the question. All that's fine and dandy. So that's some basic formatting rules you can do. One more thing I'll add here. On the header and footer, the header is the global header. It's going to be present on every single page. So I can type, vehicle survey, and that's going to show up at the top of every page. There you go. It's at the top of every page. Also, I always like to put a page number on the bottom, in the footer. So you can put a page number here, and it'll show up on the bottom. However, if you want that to actually put the number of the page, it needs to know what page it's on. And Sawtooth has its own built-in sort of commands. The language is to put a bracket and then a percent sign, and you'll see it automatically filled it in. Anything within that bracket is going to be a function that is executed internally. So if I want page number, if I just start typing page number, there it is. You see there's several things that automatically pop up, but there's page number, and now this snippet of code is going to insert the actual page number I'm on. So when I hit preview, and there you go. You see it, page 1. And as you go through the survey, that'll update dynamically. So this type of syntax, the brackets with percent signs, is something you'll see more and more throughout the tutorial, but it's a really useful little piece of information. It's not so obvious. Take time to make your survey elegant and lovely. You can add pictures, even you can add images. If you click the little pencil button, there's all kinds of features you can do to add here. Alright, if you want to add a photo, click on the image, and it'll put in the HTML code for you. So you don't even need to know HTML coding. Just use the built-in editors, and it'll put in what the HTML code it needs to put in to make it render well. Okay, so have a nice survey. Make it look pretty. Okay, here's a tricky thing. What if I need to get the value from a question that's already been answered and put it in a future question? Alright, how do I do that? So for example, here I've asked about what type of vehicle you're shopping for, car or an SUV. Let's say that after that I want to have a confirmation page that says you chose this, is that correct? I want to confirm that they picked the right thing. Okay, so I'll add a question. I'm just going to make another selection, and this is going to be called confirm vehicle type. And so for here, I'm going to say you chose whatever. It's going to be car or SUV. Is that correct? And my choices are going to be yes or no. Okay, so here I'm confirming this, and when you preview it, I'm trying to here say, did I make that correct choice? How do I fill this in with the choice from the previous question? Alright, let's add a page break. Okay, so here you choose a car or SUV. Here you need to confirm it. Here's your lists. So these are going to show you all the choices from all the different questions. So the vehicle choice question, here's your choices, car, SUV, and here's your yes or no. So what I need to do first is I need to make a constructed list. These are predefined lists. I've predefined what's in them. A constructed list is going to dynamically build as the survey goes. Alright, so what I want to do is make a dynamic list that adds one of these two once you've already chosen it. So a constructed list, I'm going to call this confirm choice. Okay, and the parent list is the vehicle type. So remember the vehicle type question here where I've asked SUV or car. So it's going to take the responses from there and put it in here once I've chosen them. But to do that, I have to add some specific Sawtooth syntax. And this is, again, something that is not very obvious. You have to sort of know the language. If you click the help file, this is a good place to start. You'll see all these different little commands. And these are internal commands in Sawtooth that allow you to add things from lists and manipulate them and get different values. But this thing here, AIC, it stands for add if chosen. It means if something is chosen in a list, then in a previous list, then add it to this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is add this. I'm going to have add as chosen, and you'll see there's question name here in the middle. All right, if you hit parentheses, you'll see this thing pop up there. Adds all members from question name. So I need to put the question name in here. Okay, not the question list. Now this is vehicle type list. All right, I need to add the question name, which is vehicle type. Okay, so if I type in vehicle type, you'll see that all the different things I have dynamically pop up. So let's just pick that, vehicle type. Done. So this list is now going to take anything that's chosen from this question and it's going to from the vehicle type question, it's going to put it in here. Okay. Now, when I go here on the confirmation page, I need to replace this blank space here with, again, I'm going to use Sawtooth's syntax. And what I need to do is grab something from a list. So if I start typing list, there's a lot of different things that you can get from lists. You can get the lengths of lists, you can get their values, all types of things. What I'm going to get is called list label. What it means is right here, it returns the label of a specified member in a list. Okay, so I'm going to get the label of lists, and the list is going to be the one that's I just showed, the constructed list, the one that's dynamically updating. So if I start typing confirm, you'll say I have all these different lists, but there was one I called confirm choice, and that was the dynamic one. And I also have to give it an index because there could be multiple values in this list, but since it's only a binary thing, it's a car and SUV, it's going to be the first one. Okay, so there you go. So now, if I run my survey, alright, I'm testing it locally here. There's my welcome page. Page 2, are you shopping for a car or SUV? You see how that changed? It's dynamically updating. Let's say I'm shopping for a car. Boom, there it is. You chose a car. Is that correct? Okay, so it knew that that's what I selected. I can go back. SUV. You chose SUV. Haha, okay, so it's working. Yeah, that's what I picked. Okay, so that's how you dynamically introduce values from previous questions into future questions. This is a very useful feature, but it requires some tricky maneuvering around with your lists. You have to create these constructed lists, and then you have to, inside your questions, you have to use these commands that Sawtooth has to get other values. You know, if you read the help files, you'll learn a lot about all the different commands they have. They're very useful, but that's a way that you can really add some customized things into your survey. Okay, skip logic. Real easy. This basically is if you want to filter out your stuff. If you want to have someone, say I only want to get car buyers, so if someone selects SUV, I want them to just skip to the end and say, okay, you're not qualified. So if you go to the right here in this panel, it says skip logic. I can add a skip. So skip if. So first you want to say when. So here I'm basically, if you don't pick car, I want you to skip to the end. So I'm going to skip to end of survey, which is the termination one. You want to say the question name and which value it is. Okay, so if the question name, which is vehicle type, there it is, vehicle type, question, if that equals 2, then I want to skip to the end of the survey. And you can check it. Okay, it looks like it's working. Alright, so let's run my test. At the beginning of a survey, now, okay, car or SUV. So if I pick car, I should be able to go forward. Yep, you chose a car. Okay, now if I choose SUV, it should skip to the end. If I chose SUV, it should skip to the end. Oh, thanks for taking our survey. Okay, so you can change. So often what I'll do is I'll have two different termination links. One of them will be, oh, sorry, you do not qualify and you can't take our survey. The other one will just be, thanks for taking our survey. And so if I'm doing any type of screening up front, I'll usually screen to the one that says, oh, you're not qualified. And then that's a different message from, no, the survey's over. So that's skip logic. And again, read the help files to get all the different types of commands. There's lots of things you can use to skip from. Alright, now we're going to get to the meat of Sawtooth. The main thing I use it for is choice-based conjoint questions. I think this is a really powerful way to elicit information about people's preferences. So what we're going to do is start by adding choice questions. So I'm going to say add, and over here I'm going to hit CBC. There's lots of other ways of doing choice questions in Sawtooth. Choice-based conjoint, CBC, is the most traditional one and the one that I'm most familiar with, so that's what we're going to be showing you. So I'm going to call this vehicle choices. So this is my questions about people making choices on vehicles. And right off it opens up an attributes page. And so on the left here you put in your attributes, on the right you put in your levels of your attributes. So the attributes of cars, just for demo, let's just pick 3. I'm going to say price, fuel economy, these are things that people might care about. And let's say 0 to 60 miles per hour acceleration time, so how fast the thing can accelerate. And then within each one I'm going to add levels. So let's pick some levels for price. Let's say $20,000, $25,000, and maybe $30,000. I'm arbitrarily picking these. Of course, when you do your actual design, you're going to pick these based on what's in the current market, the values that are in the potentially future market that you might be interested in, what are the competitors that you're looking at. So these are going to be really well thought out, but I'm just throwing up some random ones right now. Let's say 20 miles per gallon, 25 miles per gallon, and 30 miles per gallon. And acceleration time, let's say have a relatively quick car, maybe 8 seconds, 10 seconds, and let's say 12 seconds. Okay. So I've got some attributes, I got some levels. I have 3 attributes and 3 levels each. Now we need to make our design. Before we go forward, you can do some prohibitions and other things. So you can select that you don't want specific combinations to show up. So maybe you have some logical reason that one thing cannot exist while the other exists. You can add that in here into Sawtooth, but it's very dangerous to do because it can bias your estimates, okay, just to say it briefly. So I avoid using these if possible. You can choose from different response choices. You can have people rank them, but I'm just going to stick with discrete choice where they pick only one of the alternatives. The design. Okay, so under the design tab, you can really customize every aspect of your survey. So the first 3 things to consider are, how many randomized tasks do you want to ask people? So I'm going to just put 15. So how many questions do you want someone to answer? 15. Okay. Fixed tasks. How many of these do you want? I'm going to just do 1 for the demo, but these are not useful because these are exactly the same and they're to every respondent. So you can use these to check if people are just randomly clicking through or not. So this is sort of a place where you can do a logical check. So for example here, for my very first fixed one, I'm going to make the first concept an obvious winner. So it's the lowest price, the most efficient, and the fastest. Okay, and everything else is going to be worse than that. Okay, fixed task 1. Okay, so, and then the concepts, how many questions, how many different choices do you want to show each respondent? I'm going to do 3 for the demo. The non-option, this is, do you want to include the question that says, I don't want to choose any of these? You can choose it or not. I'm going to choose to not include it just for simplicity. And then I have my advanced settings here. Sawtooth, they have 4 algorithms that they use to generate your choice design. Complete enumeration, from my understanding, is it's basically like a main effects design. So if you don't think you have any interactions that are important, that's a good one to go with. The random is just randomly pick questions no order behind the design, just randomly choose them. And then there's these two ones called shortcut and balanced overlap. They're sort of heuristic based. My understanding is that balanced overlap is sort of the best of all of these. It's the one that Sawtooth recommends. It tries to achieve orthogonality, but it's also you can also get some interaction effects. It seems to be like a nice compromise. So if you're not really sure, go with this. But if you think you have some really important interactions, say you're doing the classic wine and meat design survey where you're trying to pair wines with meats, and so the interactions is actually the most important thing. Maybe you want to go with random because that's going to enable you to get more of the interaction effects. Okay, I'm going to do balanced overlap. How many questionnaire versions do you want to have? You should pick this based on how many people you think you can get. I will just go with the default 300 people, and I should be good to go here. Okay, so let's hit generate the design, and it's going to be really quick. There we go. We have 300 designs. Now it gives you this little efficiency report, and basically what this is it's a way that you can preview what you think your standard errors are going to be before you run the model. So this is looking pretty good. Pretty small standard errors if you were to run a part worth model and estimate a coefficient for each level of each attribute. Okay, so this is saying if you get 300 people on this and everyone takes your survey and everyone answers it, that's going to be your standard error. That's great. Now you can also hit test design. This is a really nice way to preview how well you could get on standard errors based on what you actually think you might get. So let's look at these things, and let's say that I have the capability to do 300, but what if I only got 100? Okay, and I can hit test, and what this is doing is it's going to run an actual Logit model. Okay, so here's the same thing from before. Here's my two-way frequencies. This just shows you. This is a good way to visualize orthogonality, right? This is showing you how often do the different combination of all the different attributes show up. And they look pretty even, right? So that's sort of orthogonal. And here it's run a basic Logit model and on the basically randomly generated data. So the effects, the numbers here don't make any sense. They're just random, so it's not going to matter. What we want to look at is the standard error. Okay, so you'll see that if I had 300 respondents, the ideal up here, you'll see the standard errors are 0.02. But here I said I only had 100, and now I've got 0.04. So if I only get 100 people, I'm going to do a little bit worse on my standard errors. But this is already pretty good. Okay, so you can run this a number of ways, and you can test it again and say, okay, what if I got more people? What if I got 300 people? What if I got everyone? Now we're looking the same. So we're in the same boat as the ideal case. Here's the ideal, 0.02s. 0.02s. This is really useful because you can really start to understand the trade-offs between how many questions you're going to ask, how many concepts per question, and how many respondents you're going to get. Okay, and you can look at the trade-offs and see what your standard errors are going to be before you even run your survey, before you do any data collection. The other thing that's important here is you can specify your effects, so you can actually get some of these interaction effects. So what if I did want to get interactions and I had 300 people test? Now it runs a Logit model with interactions. So down here I have not just these main effects. Here's my main effect standard errors, but you can see the standard errors on all the interactions. 0.03, pretty good, right? Not bad. Okay, another quick tip. This page, if you preview it, the way it looks right now, looks pretty lame, right? It's which of these would you choose, and you have your three attributes and all their levels. But I don't even know what these refer to yet. So one of the things you can do is click Show Attribute Levels, and now it shows you the label here. So this makes a whole lot more sense. I don't know why this isn't the default. It should be. Price. And fuel economy and acceleration time. Oh, that's what these are. Okay, so now it makes sense when I make a choice. Now the other thing is this text here. You can edit. You can edit everything here. If you go to the question text, that's the text that was shown. But you can make these. If these were your only vehicles to choose from, so you can make this make contextual sense here in your survey, and you can customize every aspect of this. Okay. Remember, this is HTML. You can write in code to change the dimensions of it to override any of these defaults and make it look really nice. You can even add images in here. You know, if you want this to be an image instead of a level, just text, in your attributes here, where it says 20, if you double click on it, this little panel here, look, oh, I can edit everything. So I can add an image here, I can change the colors, everything. Okay, so really spend time here to make this look good. It's really important that that you make it look good. Okay, but these are some just global parameters if you want to just change some of the basic layout. Okay, so that's how you set up your choice-based questions. Now you'll see that once I've added those, Sawtooth automatically adds them in with page breaks in between. Each of these tasks show up right here. So right now I have 15 tasks, all right, and the fixed task is sort of put in the middle by default, but you can move it up or down wherever you want. If you want to edit those, it's the same as editing any question. Just pick one of them, hit edit or double click it, and it'll bring up that whole panel again where you can edit attributes or the text or anything. It's important to note that each one of these are the same, so if you click on one and you edit something, it'll edit all of them the same. So if you want to add a footer and say this is the CBC section, that footer, you see it in this one, it's going to show up in this one. There it is. It'll show up everywhere. Okay, so you're editing, if you click any one of these, you're editing all of them effectively. Alright, so I have a survey, I want to upload it to the web and get some data. Sawtooth has this nice web server management. It's really nice. It's my favorite new feature of the newest version is everything is integrated, all the web hosting and everything is integrated into Sawtooth, so that's a great addition. Before you start this, you need to go to the Sawtooth software hosting page and hit create new hosting account. So you have to go through this process. You have to enter a code. It should have come with your license. You basically create a server, name it something, okay, and then when you go to your web service management, it'll open up and you can log in. I've already logged in, okay, and I already created this hosting project called jhelvy. So there's my project. Okay, I'm going to call this demo. Before you upload, you want to check your admin page, and you can change your username and passwords, okay, so that you can log into your admin page online and no one else can. So you want to update these, and then you want to hit upload to server. Okay, now it's done uploading, and it pops up automatically with these 3 links. The first one is it's how you take the survey, and this one is your admin page. So this thing is now live on the web. I can send that link to people, and I can collect my data. So let's say that I've done that. I've sent it to tons of people. I've got my data. If I click on the admin panel, it'll show up. It'll pull up my web browser and open the admin page, and I can preview the data, download the data, do whatever I want with it. This little can here is going to be my data management page. There's a number of ways that you can get your data. You can go to the admin page and download it as a .dat file, .dat, but if you have the admin page already up, it automatically puts this in. You can just hit get data and it downloads your data right into Sawtooth. Now you'll see that right now I don't have anyone. There's no records, right, because I haven't collected anything. So for this tutorial though, I'm gonna, instead of getting data from the web, I'm just gonna generate some fake data. So you can go to the test and hit generate data, and it'll fill out how many respondents. So let's say I have 100 respondents, and it'll actually go through and fill out all of your survey questions for you, and it'll create fake data. Now it takes some time. If you hit generate, it'll run, it'll create all your data. I'm not gonna do that right now because I've already done it. So I've already run a different one where the data was already generated. Just because it takes time, I'm just going to open that instead. What I call demo 2. It's basically just a copy of the same thing, but the data is already in it. So my data has already been gathered. It's in my system. Now I'm going to run some models. So I'm going to hit analysis. There's lots of different things you can run. The hierarchical Bayes model is what they recommend, but for the fastest, just most basic thing you can do is run a Logit model. Now, remember the question that I had was called vehicle choice. That's my CBC questions. I can go into my settings before I run this and specify exactly what type of model I want. You can add weights. You can choose only certain tasks. So maybe that you found that people at the end were just sort of randomly clicking, and so you can not include those if you want. You can have the different coding. So right now it's set to run just a part width model, means a beta for every level of every attribute. And the advanced here, make sure you switch this to full. I think by default it says standard. Switch it to full because it's going to report more information and you can use that. Okay, so estimate utilities. So right now it's running a Logit model, and that was fast. It's done. It shows me some basic information, and then it has my output for my model. So here's my attributes, remember, and you'll see these are slightly different from what I had before. This is a different file. The effects here, okay, so these numbers are again random because these are generated, right? This is not real data. And you can see your standard errors here. Alright, so I've generated my model. These are my coefficients. And down here, because I chose full, it gives me the full report. It tells me that my variance and covariance matrix as well. This is a really useful matrix, and you're going to need this if you want to do any types of computations that are based on these estimates. Okay, so right off the bat, if you look at the diagonal of this variance covariance matrix, this is where your standard errors come from. If you take the square root of this number, you get this number. Alright, so these right here, the standard errors, these are the square roots of the diagonal of this whole matrix. Alright, one more thing you can do in the settings here. Let's say that my price, if I looked at the individual part worths and my price attribute looks linear for all of the different levels, I can go to the coding here and I can say let's make price linear. Okay, so I'm going to make it linear in price, but to do that I have to tell Sawtooth what the value is. So here the value of 20,000, I have to say this is equal to $20,000. I'm just going to put 20, and that way my answer is in thousands of dollars. Okay, so 20, 25, and 30, and now when I run the model, it's going to run for one beta for price, all right, and it's going to say, oh, I'm assuming price is linear. So if I run the same model, now my model is running but with a linear price, and you'll see that I only have one coefficient, there it is, for price, and my standard error is very small. Okay, because I have fewer betas in the model, I can get better standard errors, and that also improves my standard errors only slightly, but it does on my other attributes as well. So now if I want to compute something that's a function of these betas, for example, willingness to pay, what I would do for willingness to pay is I would take these and I would divide them, I would take all of these and divide them by price. But that's only going to give me the average. If I want to incorporate my error, what I need to do is take draws. I have to draw a multivariate normal distribution with mean vector here, the betas, and variance covariance matrix this, okay? And I take all those draws and I do the division for every single draw, and then I can read off statistics from that resulting distribution. So I can take the mean of that result and the standard deviations from that, and that's going to give me my estimate of my willingness to pay with a corresponding standard error on the willingness to pay. Okay, one more important note is this variance covariance matrix, while these off diagonals may look like 0, that's usually because your price coefficient is, see how small that number is? Alright, so it depends on the units. This is basically just a units thing. Sawtooth cuts off at like 6 decimal points. I don't know why it doesn't show more. But if you try to copy paste this into something, like bring it into Excel, it's going to error when you try to make draws because it's probably going to show you that, oh, these off diagonals are 0. But they actually aren't 0, they're just really small numbers. So one of the ways you can fix that is by when you go in here and you do your setting, when you set your attributes here, you can make these different levels. So let's say I just make it in terms of $10,000 and I like that, and then when I run my model, now when I've run my model, my price coefficient is not as small, and look, now my off diagonals are not 0. There's actually something there. So you need to, unfortunately, if Sawtooth printed out more information here, this problem would not exist. But because it rounds at the 6th decimal point, you need to choose your units so that when you run your model, these units don't get too small. If you start seeing estimates that are like 0.000 something, then you're probably going to have a 0 here like this. That's actually probably not 0. Just change your units when you run your model so that you can get what these real off diagonals are, because you'll need that. Okay, so that's it for the tutorial. Hope that was useful, and good luck with all your models.